GWATA TV gives you a first look at North Central Washington's business news. You'll hear from our local business, tech, and education companies as Jenny discusses hot topics and current events with some of the best innovators and pioneers in North Central Washington.
Hello, North Central Washington, and welcome to GWATA TV. I'm your host, Jenny Rojanasthien, and it's a pleasure to be with you today. On today's episode of GWATA TV, we're going to be talking all about education. Very specifically, what's been happening in Wenatchee School District since the pandemic hit. I've invited the Superintendent of Wenatchee School District, Dr. Paul Gordon, to come on air and give us a lay of the land in terms of the school district's response last spring and what their plans are for the future. Stay tuned. We'll be right back on air with Wenatchee School District. Welcome to GWATA TV. I am pleased to introduce our guest for today's show, Dr. Paul Gordon, Superintendent for Wenatchee School District. Welcome to GWATA TV.
Thank you so much. Really excited to be here today.
Well, I'm really excited to see you in person for a few minutes and get caught up on all things education. It's been a very big year in education for our families, educators. But first, I'd love for the audience to get to know you a little better. You moved to Wenatchee last summer, started as a superintendent July 2019?
Yep.
Okay. So before we get into that, tell us a little bit about you and your background.
Yeah, well, again, thank you for having me here. Excited to be here, excited to share a little bit about the work we're doing. But yeah, my wife and I came here the previous July of 19. From Illinois, right outside of Chicago, really looking for that opportunity to be in a very diverse district, a district that had demographics that are very similar to Wenatchee, and I've just fallen in love with it. But before that, I've been a teacher, been a principal or assistant principal, executive director of schools, chief academic officer of schools, a former superintendent in another smaller district. Most of my career was out in Colorado.
Okay.
Spent a lot of time there in a really large urban school district, about 42,000 kids, right outside of Denver, and absolutely loved it. But one of the things that I've always wanted to do is kind of go somewhere into a bigger city, and really had that experience out in Chicago. But it was a K-8 district, which is pretty similar, pretty typical in the Illinois area. You either have K-8 districts or high school districts. There are very few unit districts, they call them.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
We're kind of used to that in Washington State, being on one system.
And that was the same in Colorado. It was kind of one thing. I'd never even heard of K-8 districts, quite honestly. But it was a really unique opportunity to go out to Illinois and become a superintendent for the first time, and really enjoyed it, but I missed the K-12 environment. There's something about that connectivity from preschool through the senior year for our students, and be able to see that that trajectory of students and be able to support students all the way through. And in Glen Ellen, it was a more affluent community across the board. There was definitely some areas, outliers, but it was a more affluent community, and this gave me an opportunity to come to Wenatchee to serve a community that is more diverse and more of the background that I really wanted to be a part of.
Had you and your wife been to Wenatchee before you applied? Okay.
Never.
Okay.
But we'd never been to Wheaton, Illinois, in Glen Ellen, Illinois either. So yeah, my wife trusts me to kind of, this is a good place for us, and it has been. It is, the beauty is unlike anything. Chicago, it's really unique because of its city, a beautiful city, but the scenery was, it's flat. It's a lot of farmland and that.
We've got the diversity.
We do, mountains.
Right.
And I love skiing. I miss from my Colorado days and snowboarding.
Right.
And really having that outdoor piece. My wife and I love being outside. And that's just been a natural connection for us. We hiked up to I just forgot the lake, up to, I want to say Stevens, but that's not right.
Lake Clara?
Yes.
Lake Clara
yeah,
from
we were
Mission
up,
Edge, yes.
Yeah, we've been
Beautiful.
up there. We've done a couple other hikes and just really enjoyed the time out here.
Well, as you talked about, and thank you for sharing some more of your background, you moved the summer of 2019. So you had about half a year under your belt as the new superintendent for Wenatchee School District when the pandemic hit. And obviously this could not have been planned for at any level in our country, and nothing similar has happened since 1918. What were your initial plans, really thinking from a leadership level, in your first year and for the school district? And how have you had to adapt personally once the pandemic hit?
You know, we started off with a transition plan that we really followed, where we wanted to make sure we were engaging community members, staff members, students, teachers, our Board of Education, and we really went down that pathway, and I think did an exceptional job of connecting with our community in very different ways and being present within our community to have a much deeper understanding of the Wenatchee School District. And that's really what that time allowed me to do, was to meet with community members, meet with staff members, and have them tell their story to me. How the school district was impacting them positively or negatively, and what the school district meant to them. And the opportunities really helped me understand where we needed to go and what we needed to do. So that time was so important. I could not imagine starting a new superintendency now without the access to community members. So I do see that as still a blessing.
You got a little bit of a lay of the land before you had to go
into
a
new guy
crisis
coming
mode.
In, and not having that,
Right.
I don't think we would have been able to set the foundation like we've been able to do. So that time was so valuable to listen and learn before we started to make any changes to it. But then you're right, March 17th came around, and we had to send students out of our schools and into remote learning. So it hasn't changed everything that we wanted to do, because one of the things that we learned was we needed to improve our reading instruction within our district. And that started to take fold last November. As I was visiting early classrooms from preschool to second grade, we recognized we needed to make some shifts there. And we were able to do that. We were able to already start moving in a different direction around instruction and supporting our educators, supporting our teachers with a different approach to reading instruction. And we were making great progress. Pandemic hit, and much of that work needed to stop, quite honestly. We needed to figure out how we're going to teach online. But this year, we're back, we're working with our educators, and our educators are delivering incredible instruction around the area of early literacy, and I'm really proud of that. So even though some things have changed and some things have gone by the wayside, in teaching our students how to read and how to read based off of the science of reading continues to be a foundational piece that we will continue to move forward with.
And we didn't go too much into detail, but the literacy piece, something you have a lot of background in your early career, right? You worked with students who are a couple grades behind. So is that part of what ignited that passion to really have that foundation there?
It absolutely is, Jenny. You know, I'm blessed because I've had so many great mentors in my life as I've gone through my educational career. You know, I was an English teacher. I was a high school English teacher. I was a high school football coach, and I really thought that's what I was going to do. I was teaching high school. I was coaching football. Life was good.
Yeah.
My wife may disagree on the football side of things,
right. Yes.
but I was really enjoying every piece of it. A mentor came to me and said, "You know what? You've got more to offer. You need to go to our middle schools and start a reading program." And I'm like, what? Right. But it taught me, because as a secondary English teacher, I didn't spend a lot of time on the early literacy aspect and what it took, the incredible efforts and time that it takes for early literacy teacher to be able to teach reading. And I had that opportunity because I was teaching at the middle school, but students who were 2 to 5 years behind grade level, and really understanding their struggles. So I was able to immerse myself in that understanding, in the research and in the science behind reading and what it really takes to help a student to read. It's not natural. Reading is not a natural piece that the human mind is able to do like it does with speaking. There are a lot of very specific components that we need to teach around decoding and helping our students understand that. So having that background allowed me to be in classrooms. I'm not the expert I used to be. It's been a few days since I've been in the classroom, but I still know enough, and I recognize really high quality early literacy instruction. And I pushed for another member of our organization to go into the classrooms and start seeing that. And that's where we made our final recommendation to say we need to make some changes.
Well, and that foundation, as you talked about, is really setting up a student for their entire educational arc and career path. So really, really important, obviously, work. I want to switch gears a little from literacy into technology, because we're the Technology Alliance. I think one of the things I saw early on in the pandemic was Wenatchee School District's really proactive involvement in technology to ensure families could do remote learning.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit of what that looked like from device checkout to tech support.
Absolutely. So first you have to have great people. You know, one of the pieces of leadership that I've learned is you surround yourself with really smart people who are better than you are in many different areas. And one of those individuals is that we were lucky to have on our team is Ron Brown, the Director of Technology for the Wenatchee School District. And honestly, without him, we would not be in the place we are. One, he has incredible connections throughout this community, but two, he knows what he's doing. And he really led us through this transformation of instruction from face-to-face to online learning, and it had to happen, you know, over a weekend, quite honestly.
Yeah, almost literally overnight.
The governor says we're shutting down,
right. Yeah.
And then we're back. We had like a week pause, and then we were back in trying to instruct students virtually. But it took a large lift from the community, from us having to purchase more technology, more laptops. We were not a one-to-one district yet. We were moving that way. Ron had set us on a trajectory to move that way, but we weren't there. So we had to make sure we were making the right purchases. And then the big reality was, not every family has internet within their homes. And that became a huge divide. That's when we needed to lean into partners like GWATA and other community members throughout the region to say, we have to do something. It is not okay in this pandemic world that we're allowing some families access and other families no access. It was a big lift within the region to say we are going to do something, but collectively we work to ensure that giving people hotspots, either the individual hotspots or within the community, like the Wenatchee Valley Community College opening up their hotspot for within their parking lots, the libraries, Link Transit, the PUD, all of these different organizations coming to the table to say, we're going to help our community. The piece that we also have to understand, this isn't just about education. The technology became a way to access medical. Being able to do teledoc, because they weren't allowing people to come in. So this was a major undertaking, but we had to have really good people, because that's not my area of expertise. Had to lean into really good people who understood the nuances of what this was going to take. And then to support our families. So many of our families, even if they had the internet at home.
And the device.
They
don't know what to do next. Right. Yes.
That's it.
Right.
And how do you help them?
Yeah.
How do you help them navigate that? And how do you ensure that everybody has the access points, but also when troubleshooting comes up? Right. And that I'm proud of our team that set up Drive Up Help. being able to call and get somebody to speak to them in English or in Spanish. Doing all those different pieces to support our community is really what made a difference.
You've really had a dynamic approach to these very complicated big problems. I want to talk more about that, but we do have to head out to a commercial break. So stay tuned. We'll be back on air with Dr. Gordon. We're back on air with Dr. Gordon, Superintendent of Wenatchee School District. We just had a really robust conversation about your history, where the school district is at, and just again to recap, over 4,000 devices went out to families. You had tech support, ongoing tech support in English and Spanish. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, you have been working really hard on Wi-Fi options, whether that's hotspots. There's now discounts or free and free Wi-Fi for families, all on the Wenatchee School District website. Let's now talk about where we are as far as kids in school, remote learning, and what's ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. We made the decision to bring back our youngest learners, our preschool through second grade students first. We're excited that they'll be joining us in November. Again, we're going to be following really strict health guidelines around wearing the mask, social distancing, proper hygiene, washing our hands, cleaning surfaces, making sure there's ventilation within our rooms. But it's going to be done in a hybrid model where for us we've chosen to do AM, PM. So half the students in a class would come in the morning and then half of the students would come in the afternoon. Students will be engaged in math and literacy. They will also have connection, kind of that social emotional time that we know our students are really missing and is needed. If they're in the morning, they'll have their breakfast, and in the afternoon they'll be able to have their lunch provided to them. For all the other students, we hope to be slowly moving forward.
So the remaining grade bands will stay on remote learning? They
will.
Okay.
3rd through 12th grade will stay on the online learning. What the medical community has asked us to do is watch and learn and make any adjustments needed. So over this 3-week period of time when our students are in school, really seeing what's occurring within our buildings, what strategies are working exceptionally well, where are areas that we tweak, what is the infection rate within our schools, and then from there being able to bring in another group of students. What we've seen through school districts around the country and around even the region, there are a number of school districts who are already open, especially in the Grant County. We really have been following their work and what they've been doing, and what we see from it, again, locally and nationally, is within schools, very little transmission rate. Very little transmission rate. If a student has COVID or an adult, it's coming from the outside in. And it's why we're following all the health guidelines. Mask, social distancing, hand washing, all of those pieces. When students come into our buildings, they're going to have a temperature check. Their parents are going to fill out a health screening saying, yes, my son or daughter does not exhibit any of these symptoms. And then we're moving into our classrooms, again, in a safe, orderly manner, and being able to instruct our students. And why we want to do this? We need to be with our youngest learners right now on that daily opportunity to connect with them.
Like you said, it's those literacy foundations that you're really striving for. I think the social emotional is so important.
It is.
We're struggling. I can only imagine being a 6 or 7 year old and not having that same social structure they're so used to. Why return at all? It's a very, obviously, there's a lot of viewpoints across the country. That's not unique to Wenatchee.
No.
So why ultimately did Wenatchee School District decide to even move forward with going in person?
Great question. One of the things that I have the opportunity to do is be able to meet with medical experts on a weekly basis. And I've been doing that since July. Really having these opportunities with Dr. Malcolm Butler, with Dr. Mark Johnson, with Dr. Peter Rutherford, with many others. Nate Weed, who's a new interim health director at the Chelan Douglas Health District. So what we've done as superintendents is immerse ourselves into their expertise, to try to lean into them. And what we've understood is what I spoke about, are within our schools, if we follow all these safety strategies, actually it's probably safer within our schools to be bringing students in, because where the transmission continues to occur are in small groups where people feel comfortable. We're friends. You must not have COVID. We're doing a lot of assuming. And when we gather, that's when the infection rate continues to go up. In our buildings, we're going to strictly adhere to the health recommendations. But ultimately had to make a decision, because we are seeing our infection rate within our community still sitting right around that 160 per 100,000. So we had to make a decision. We have the health and we have the academic side of things and the social emotional. Right. And we really felt like if we did our job on the health side of things, we can still bring students back in safely and be able to continue with the academic side of things and some of that social emotional that you brought up. So it was a decision based in the medical and in the academic side.
Well, and then of course you're starting in a smaller group.
We are.
So you did not bring everyone back. The plan right now is January, right? That you would have phased in all students. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
We hope to move, like I said, about every 3 weeks. That next group would be the 3rd through 5th.
Okay.
Potentially, the secondary students would come back January 26th, if everything works.
Just like always fingers crossed as you go through. Now, if a family says, I don't want my child to go back in, they're uncomfortable, is there still remote learning, online learning options?
There are. We have Wenatchee Internet Academy, which has been a huge success. Really proud of the team who've taken this job on to. Here's another piece. I mean, we did not have an online school prior to July 1st. We transformed it and really made this really robust learning environment in a new school. And that's a place where if parents aren't feeling comfortable quite yet, they can enroll in Wenatchee Internet Academy now.
So they don't have to go a private school model. They can stay in a public setting and have that opportunity.
With outstanding educators, delivering great instruction and still those great connection points for our kids.
As we wind down today, thank you. This has been really informative. There's a lot of community members whose kids are already grown up, or like myself, I don't have children. What is your advice or feedback to the community about supporting educators and supporting families during this time?
One, I think the number one thing that we can all do to support education is to mask up, socially distance, because that's what's going to keep our schools open. So that for me, I think that's probably one of the kindest things we can do for each other, taking care of our community by taking responsibility to put on the mask, socially distance, wash our hands, and do the other mitigating factors. The other piece is continue to reach out to our educators, letting them know how much they appreciate the work that they're doing every day. Our parents, I can't say enough about my appreciation for all of our parents and what they've been able to do at home and how they've had to balance work, family, and being a classroom teacher now. So I'm eternally grateful for them. But I think another silver lining in this is the understanding of how important schools are.
Yes. I think I see about 100 memes a day about how grateful people are to teachers because now parents have been on the other side. And
so show that appreciation.
Truly make the world go round.
Yeah, they do. And I think the other thing we've learned is how important schools are to the fabric of the community, because we really are that connection point for our community, from businesses to parents to community members who don't have students. It's such an important aspect of our community. So reach out, show that gratitude, and mask up.
Perfect. Great messages. Thank you so much for coming on air, and thank you everyone for tuning in today. We'll see you next time on GWATA TV.
Since 1999, GWATA has served as North Central Washington's Tech Alliance. As a 501c3, our mission is to bring people and technology resources together to create a thriving community. Through our work, we aim to inspire, engage, and connect.